The first time I saw Karen Whitmore, she was standing on my porch with a ruler, not a measuring tape, an actual past a 12-inch wooden ruler, pressed against my freshly planted hydrangeas, like a detective inspecting a crime scene. Her platinum blonde bob didn't sway in the breeze. Her oversized sunglasses reflected the afternoon sun, hiding any hint of human expression, and her lips, painted a shade of pink that matched her HOA compliance officer lanyard, pursed in disapproval. These bushes exceed the 24-inch height regulation, she announced, as if reading a death sentence. I blinked. I planted them yesterday, and already in violation. She snapped a photo with her phone before I could argue. You'll receive a fine by email. That was my official welcome to Willow Ridge Estates. I should have known then what I was in for. The house at the end of the road. I'd bought the property for its privacy. A secluded ranch-style home at the end of a narrow tree-lined driveway. The realtor had assured me the road was her private, deeded exclusively to my lot. No through traffic, no solicitors, no HOA patrols measuring my shrubs at dawn. Or so I thought. 3 days after moving in, a certified letter arrived. Notice of HOA jurisdiction. The access road to your property is under Willow Ridge, HOA Maintenance Authority. Failure to pay annual road fees, plus $200, will result in restricted access. I laughed. Then I checked. My deed. Then I called my lawyer. They're bluffing, he assured me. Your deed clearly includes the road. They can't charge you to use your own land. I fired off an email to the HOA board, attaching the legal documents. Within an hour, Karen replied, "The HOA's records supersede individual deeds. Pay the fees or face consequences." The tone was so absurdly authoritarian. I half expected a follow-up signed, "Sincerely your Supreme Leader." The semi-truck blockade. I ignored the demand. Big mistake. At 6:03 a.m. on Monday, the roar of a diesel engine shook me awake. I stumbled to the window, just in time to see an 18-wheeler lurch to a stop. Sideways, across the mouth of my driveway. No warning, no discussion. Just a 40-ton barricade with Whitmore Logistics stamped on the cab. And there, leaning against the truck's grill with folded arms, stood Karen. "Good morning," she chirped, as if we were discussing the weather. "Since you refuse to acknowledge HOA authority, we've repossessed the road. Consider this your final notice." My pulse pounded in my ears. "You can't block a private driveway. It's not your driveway." She tapped a manicured nail against a laminated sign, duct taped to the truck. "HOA property. Trespassers will be fined." I called the police. They shrugged. "Civil matter." I called a tow company. They laughed. "We don't touch semis." Karen smirked. "The HOA has resources, dear. You'd be wise to remember that." Then she strolled away, leaving me stranded in my own home. The first shot fired. By noon, the entire neighborhood knew. Mrs. Garza from across the street brought me a casserole and a whispered warning. She did this to the last owner too. He sold after 2 months. Old Mr. Henderson, who'd lived here since the 80s, spat into his azaleas. That woman's a tyrant, but nobody stands up to her. I scrolled through the HOA bylaws that night, searching for a loophole. That's when I found it. Article 14, Section 3 No member shall obstruct access to a homeowner's property without written approval from the county. Karen had broken her own rules. I snapped a photo of the clause. Then I grabbed a can of spray paint from my garage. If she wanted a war, she'd get one. midnight vandalism, and morning retaliation. The spray paint hissed as I finished the last letter, my breath fogging in the chilly pre-dawn air. Across the side of Karen's semi-truck, bold red letters declared, "Illegally parked, tow it owners. Expense." I stepped back, admiring my handiwork. The paint gleamed under the streetlight, looking official enough to pass for a city notice. If Karen wanted to play dirty, I'd speak her language. By sunrise, the entire neighborhood had seen it. I watched from my kitchen window as Karen stormed toward the truck at 7:15 sharp. Her usual crisp blazer swapped for a hastily thrown-on robe. Her shriek carried all the way to my porch. Who did this? The satisfaction lasted exactly 4 minutes. At 7:19, my phone buzzed with an email notification. Violation notice. $500 fine for vandalism of HOA property. Payment due immediately. Attached was a security camera still. Me. Hoodie pulled low, but unmistakable. Spray can in hand. Clever witch. The legal gambit. My lawyer's office smelled like expensive coffee and desperation. She can't. Fine me for graffiti on her own illegal roadblock, I argued, slapping the violation notice on his mahogany desk. Actually, he sighed. She can. The truck is private property, regardless of where it's parked. But, he flipped through my deed, then paused. This clause about unimpeded access. That's your golden ticket. 2 hours later, I served Karen with official notice. Cease. Obstruction of private roadway within 24 hours, or face injunctive relief and damages. I made sure to hand deliver it during the HOA's monthly croquet tournament. The gasps from the pearl-clutching crowd were almost worth the $500 fine. Karen's smile didn't waver. How adorable. You got a lawyer. She plucked the letter from my fingers. Unfortunately, the HOA's attorneys are better. The neighborhood Cold War. The truck disappeared that night, but the next morning I found 6 new, no trespassing signs lining my driveway. A motion-activated camera pointed at my front door, and worst of all, a handwritten note in my mailbox. Looking forward to reviewing your landscaping compliance tomorrow at 8 a.m. sharp. Wear shoes you don't mind getting dirty. KW. The threat was clear. She'd make my life hell through bureaucracy. I spent the afternoon digging through county records. That's when I discovered the Willow Ridge original plat map and the smoking gun. The access road wasn't just mine. It was never part of the HOA at all. The trap is set. At the next HOA meeting, I arrived early, clutching a manila envelope. Karen presided over the gathering like a queen holding court, doling out fines for unapproved patio furniture and Halloween decorations deemed too macabre. When she spotted me, her lips curled. Here to pay your fines, Mr. Graffiti Artist? The room tittered. Actually, I said, projecting for the crowd, I'm here to discuss your illegal seizure of private property. I slapped the plat map on the table. This proves the road belongs solely to my lot. Always has. Karen's polished fingernails dug into her clipboard. That map is outdated. Filed with the county last month. I turned to the assembled homeowners. How many of you have paid road maintenance fees over the years? Hands tentatively rose. Funny. I continued. Since the HOA has no legal right to charge them, the room erupted. For the first time, Karen's mask slipped. just enough for me to see the panic underneath. "This meeting is adjourned," she barked, but the damage was done. Neighbors clustered around me, demanding copies of the map. As Karen fled, she hissed one final threat. "You'll regret this." I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The aftermath of rebellion. The Willow Ridge Community Facebook group exploded overnight. By dawn, 63 messages pinged my phone, screen captures of furious posts, shaky cell phone videos of Karen dodging questions in the grocery store, parking lot, and one particularly satisfying meme of her face photoshopped onto Napoleon's body. The caption, HOA complex. But the real victory came when Mrs. Garza knocked on my door, holding a casserole dish and a manila folder, thick with documents. "You're not the first one she's done this to," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder. "But you're the first." Who fought back? Inside the folder, 5 years' worth of illegal HOA fines, all levied against properties with private driveways. Karen had been running an extortion racket, disguised as community governance. The whistleblower strategy. I spent the weekend compiling evidence. Forged property line amendments. From the HOA files. Emails. Between Karen and the landscaping company she owned. Coincidentally, the only vendor approved for HOA work. Bank records. Showing road maintenance fees being funneled into her personal account. The final piece came from old Mr. Henderson, who shuffled up my driveway with a camcorder tape labeled Board Meeting 2016. Vote fraud. Tried warning people years ago. He grumbled. Nobody listens to an old man. They listen now. Karen's counterattack. She struck at twilight on Sunday. I returned from a coffee run to find every shrub on my property beheaded, violating HOA height regulations naturally. A cease and desist letter, taped, to my door, threatening defamation lawsuits, and most creatively, a live beehive. Placed strategically beneath my mailbox, the message was clear. Back off, or the stings will get worse. But Karen had miscalculated. The hive was the final provocation that turned the neighborhood. The emergency meeting. We gathered in the Garza's backyard. 23 homeowners, clutching copies of the evidence, their murmurs swelling into angry chatter. She fined me $200 for a pink porch light, made us rip out our daughter's treehouse the day after her birthday. That witch called animal control on my emotional support chicken. I projected the camcorder footage onto a bedsheet, hung from their gazebo. The grainy video showed Karen stuffing ballot boxes during the 2016 board election. The crowd's rage crystallized into something dangerous. Purpose. Mrs. Garza's voice cut through the noise. "We have enough here to call a special election. Remove her from the board entirely." A cheer went up, then died abruptly, as headlights swept across the yard. Karen's Lexus idled at the curb, her silhouette visible through the windshield, watching. For the first time all evening, the neighborhood fell completely silent. The breaking point. She confronted me the next morning at sunrise. "You think you're clever," she hissed, blocking my car door as I left for work. Up close, I noticed the cracks in her armor, smudged mascara, a chipped manicure. "But you don't understand how this works. I built Willow Ridge. I decide who stays." I held up my phone, recording. "You mean you decide who you can extort?" Her hand shot out to knock the phone away, then froze at the sound of approaching engines. 3 cars rolled up, windows down, Mr. Henderson, the Gazas. The young couple from Elm Court, whose kids Karen had banned from the community pool. No one spoke. They didn't need to. Karen's face went pale. For the first time in a decade, Willow Ridge wasn't hers. By noon, the petition had 47 signatures. Neighbors I'd never met pressed folded notes into my hands, typed testimonies of Karen's reign, crumpled receipts for suspicious fines, even a thumb drive labeled HOA Slush Fund. The quietest housewife on the block brought homemade lemon bars and a notarized affidavit. Karen's Lexus remained parked at the clubhouse, its darkened windows hiding whatever last-ditch strategy she was concocting. The tension turned the humid August air electric. Then the county inspector arrived. The inspection. A squat man in a wrinkled polo shirt squinted at Karen's no trespassing signs. "These permits are fake," he announced loud enough for the gathering crowd to hear. His tape measure confirmed what the plat map had shown. The road was never HOA property. Karen materialized like a spectre, her silk blouse sticking to her. In the heat, "There's been a misunderstanding, Mom." The inspector pointed to the beehive now swarming near my mailbox. "That's a Class B misdemeanor. And I'd love to discuss where these road maintenance funds actually went." Her porcelain skin flushed an ugly red. The mutiny. The emergency HOA meeting that night was standing room only. Karen sat stiffly at the head table, her usual throne replaced by a folding chair. When the board secretary read the motion for her removal, her manicured fingers trembled around her water glass. The vote took 6 minutes. Unanimous. For a heartbeat, the room was utterly still. Then Mrs. Garza's slow clap built into thunderous applause. Karen fled through the fire exit, her designer heels catching on the asphalt. The reckoning. I found her 2 days later, boxing up her office at Whitmore Landscaping. "You happy? Now?" she spat, tossing a framed HOA President of the Year certificate into the trash. "You've destroyed everything I built." I studied the woman who'd made my life hell, the frayed edges of her perfect facade, the tremor in her voice. The monster was just a middle-aged woman facing consequences. "Funny," I said, sliding a final envelope across her desk. All I did was tell the truth. Inside, a $5,000 invoice for the illegal road blockade, bee removal, and emotional distress, itemized in the same font she used for her violation notices. The block party. We shut down the entire street for the celebration. Kids rode bikes where Karen's semi-truck had loomed. Mr. Henderson fired up his vintage grill, flipping burgers next, to the young couple's approved by no one Halloween decorations. Someone had stuck a for sale sign in Karen's yard as a joke. As twilight painted the sky orange, Mrs. Garza handed me a plaque. "Defender of Willow Ridge." I hung it right next to my mailbox. Now bee-free and freshly painted HOA regulation, black, because some rules it turned out were worth keeping.